Hello, today I would like to go over a really fun activity that you can do with your students, your alternately assessed students, when you are in the virtual classroom, which is going on a virtual field trip. And you can utilize this within your social studies curriculum and your passports curriculum for grade 3, which is communities around the world. So, in addition to them researching and learning about all different types of communities, they can also learn about things and places in their own community to compare and contrast. You can also utilize this with the ELA essential element W3.3, which is writing about a personal experience. So something they will be doing throughout the Jamboard is going back and recalling information from their virtual field trip. So I think this is a really awesome experience for our students who are remote, who have been lacking the experiences of going on trips, maybe going out in their community due to everything that's been going on. So we want to make sure that we still have a way for our students to see the things that they have around them and expose them to their own communities and the beautiful things and the wonderful opportunities we have growing up in New York City. So, going on virtual field trips, which you will notice has been a huge thing, especially with everything going on recently, online things, virtual experiences there's a million different opportunities we have. So, I want to go over how you can utilize this in the classroom with your students and maybe based on their interests, find some really great experiences that they can visit virtually in the classroom using YouTube and all the different wonderful resources we have at our fingertips. So let's go through. So today we're going on a virtual field trip. And so you can see from here, our lesson objective is students will recall details from their virtual field trip. So I kind of give my students a hint in the background as to where we're going to be visiting today. And it may be a place that they've already visited, maybe with a class in previous years. Maybe they visit with their families or they live close by and they'll be able to identify this landmark. So I like to present a slide at first to my students to kind of give them a hint as to where we're going. So I found a picture and I would ask my students, so hey guys, who can guess or who can tell me where do you think we're visiting today? What kind of place are we going to go on our virtual field trip to visit? And obviously we are going to an aquarium, so I would ask them if they've ever been, do they like the aquarium, what kind of things do they see in the picture, maybe if they haven't ever been before, to kind of gain that prior knowledge, to get that experience of what they've learned, to hone into their own experience, right? Have they been there? Do they visit often with their family? And to kind of activate that prior knowledge to say, well, what kind of animals would you see in an aquarium? What do you notice here? We see some fish. We notice some sharks. Does anyone remember what this is called? Going over the coral reef that we might have talked about, right? So all the different things you can use to get them really excited and really engaged and ready to go on this virtual field trip. So you'll see over here, I went into YouTube. There are a ton of different options that I'll go through with you afterwards. You can find so many different places to visit. The New York Aquarium is right in Brooklyn. That's amazing. So I picked this video. It's only about 18 minutes, which isn't too bad. Not too much of a lesson, right? If you're considering going on an actual trip, we'd be there for a lot longer. So it's pretty cool. There's a lot of different features in this video. So I'm going to share just a snippet of it with you so you can get an idea for what it is. And then we'll go back and look at some of the other resources that are all available via YouTube. So this is a great shot, right? Going on from Coney Island into the aquarium in Brooklyn. So we can talk about the boroughs. Do you live close by? Have you seen it? What do you notice? It's right by Coney Island, right? And I really like that this particular video shows us walking through the entrance, so you can kind of feel like you're really going into the New York Aquarium. So this video kind of takes its time. It goes through the different things that you would see. You can talk to your students about the different things that they're noticing. What kinds of fish? Are they the same, different? What do they see? What colors? Do they have fish as pets, right? You can ask all those kind of things as you're going through the video, and it will kind of pan you through the whole aquarium. So that's a small snippet of the video. I'm going to stop that here and I'm going to go back so you can kind of see when you type in New York Aquarium virtual field trip, you have so many different options. And you'll see over here, we have the seals and penguins. There's the actual seal show, right? So if they were interested in that, you can definitely share that with them and they could watch that. That would be really fun. So you have so many different options. Again, this is just one place you can visit in New York, not to mention the multitude of museums and other places that you can take your kids on virtual field trips to. So let's go through a way that I broke down to go through and have my students now tell me all the different things they noticed or observed during our virtual field trip. So this is a brochure type thing that if you were in person, you could print out and fold it to make it a type of brochure. But I just took a screenshot of it and I put it into Jamboard so that we could utilize it together. So you'll see here, my field trip 2, they would describe where they're going, where they went, right? We went to the New York Aquarium. They could draw a picture. They can write in their name. They could talk about their favorite part of the trip, what they liked the most. Did they like to see the seals? Did they like the sharks? And then they can draw a picture. So now if your students aren't able to write full sentences, they can write in a few key words, or they can skip that altogether and just draw in a picture. Then over here we have a few things that we've learned. So we have 5 things throughout this worksheet in particular, but you can always modify that and break it down to make it a little bit less if that's what your students need. Then here's a second page for maybe more higher level learners, right? Would you recommend this field trip to a friend? Yes or no, why or why not? Some other things that they saw, and then writing a short summary of the field trip. This is also a great option to send home as homework so that you can carry over what you did in the classroom and follow up with it at home. It's also something that you can have your students talk to either an older brother or sister, a sibling, a parent, a grandma, an aunt, talk to them at home about what they just did in class. So it could be a really great way to connect with families and have a way to have them share their experience in the virtual classroom at home and tell them what they did with us, right? So then I also broke this down maybe for our students who aren't able to do all 3 things on a page at once. Maybe you want to break it down and present a few things at a time, or maybe you want to skip some of those pieces that were in that complete worksheet. So you can very simply take a screenshot of the PDF and break down and only utilize the pieces that would be beneficial for your students. So we want to start off with a little introduction, right? We want them to start off their paper with where they went, who it was by, have their name, they can draw their picture. If they're not able to draw a picture, they don't like drawing pictures, they can or they're tech savvy, they can add an image. So they can go in, they can do a Google image search, right? And they can go in and they can just search for the New York Aquarium and they could pick any picture they would like, right? So they can just embed that in there, say they saw that, they wanted to insert it, and then it'll just load, and there you go, right? They can resize it, they could put it in, they can make it bigger to go outside the box, and then they can just type in their names or write their names down here, right? So some really great features and great options when you're utilizing a Jamboard. Next, we have again the 5 things that they learned. And something I like to do, or I would like to do with my students with this, is make this more of a brainstorming activity. So maybe 5 things might be a lot for some of our students to recall. Maybe they're only good at doing maybe 1 or 2, or they're able to recall or hold on to a few things at a time. So we can have, as a classroom, everyone participate and everyone can give us one thing, right? So that we can add to this list or have this as a brainstorming activity as opposed to relying on just one student to tell us all 5 things. Now, if your students are capable of doing that, fantastic, go with it. But if they're not or they're struggling, we can definitely work in small groups or use this as a whole group activity where everyone's jumping in together and sharing some things that they remember or new things that they learned, right? So I think that that could be a really fun way to utilize this particular slide. Next, we have our favorite part. So again, if you don't want all that information on one page, it's too much, it's too overwhelming, you can just do these small little screenshots and break them up and go through them slide by slide so that everyone has a chance to participate. They can put in their information. There's always room for writing, even if it's just a few words. It may not be complete sentences yet. That's fine. They can use a word to identify what picture they drew or a picture they found, right? So you can definitely modify that for however your students are learning or wherever they're at, right, academically. And then again, here's that short summary of a field trip. If your students are able to do that, we have some lines here. They can also draw a picture to the side if that's what they need, writing out a few words, drawing a few pictures. There's plenty of room for that on this slide. And then I'm going to show you how, I have two different ways that we could put, would you recommend this field trip to a friend? So this is a higher level one where it says why or why not, right? So then they have to kind of give us some reasoning why they would refer it to a friend, why they would recommend it, and or not. But another way you can do this, if you just take that small screenshot, would you recommend this field trip to a friend? You can actually utilize this within your classroom to have your students get an opportunity to turn and talk, right? So they can ask their opinions of their friends. And I think that that's a beautiful feature that we can't forget in the virtual classroom, having that student engagement and interaction. So we can have one student ask the question, another student respond, and then again, if they're able to say why, great. If not, that's okay. They can then turn to another buddy and say, would you recommend going to the aquarium? And they can say yes or no. And maybe it's as simple as, I really liked seeing the fish, or I like fish, or maybe they just say, yep, I would like it because it was cool. Whatever it is, it's really fun to have your students still have that interaction, that peer interaction and engagement, and also the practice of turning and talking to friends to still have those conversational skills, right? Asking a question and waiting for a response, and then turning and asking a question and responding. It's some really great skills that we can still hone in on and work on, even though we're in the virtual classroom. So I hope that this is a great idea that you guys can maybe use for your students to make it really fun and engaging, especially as it's summer and we're thinking about getting out and doing things. It could be really fun to go on some virtual field trips and then have an activity at the end to tie it together where they share their opinions and feedback as to whether or not they liked it. So I hope you can use this, and I hope you guys have fun going on virtual field trips.